On the phone, my sister was gloating as usual. She seemed to really enjoy tormenting me and making me feel miserable. I could easily imagine the spiteful smirk on her face.
I'm getting married, you know? I'll be expecting a gift of $10,000 from you.
The man she's marrying is my ex-fiancé. Yes, incredibly, she stole my fiancé from me. What a terrible woman. It's really sickening to think I'm related to her by blood. But to me now, she's no enemy. Her gloating is just laughable. I won't let her have her way anymore. I responded as cheerfully as I could. Sure, I'll be there with my husband, the CEO who makes $300 million a year. I could picture the confused look on her face. Before she could ask any probing questions, I hung up. It's going to be a tearful wedding. Tears of regret, not joy. My name is Emily, and I'm 33 years old. Ever since I can remember, I've been trampled on by my sister. My sister, Lisa, is 2 years older than me. She's capable of doing everything without a hitch, and she's both beautiful and stylish. But in my opinion, her inner self is just vile. She always ridiculed me.
I refuse to acknowledge a failure like you as my sister, you know?
I still remember her cold gaze. Being looked down upon, the young me was incredibly hurt. I was always made to feel small because everything I did was criticized. Lisa, standing tall and proud, and me, with my back hunched. We were such contrasting sisters. There's no denying Lisa is pretty. Both our parents always fussed over her, the good-looking one. Meanwhile, plain old me was ignored. The difference in treatment was clear. Looking back, it's like we were the very embodiment of light and shadow. Lisa was popular at school too. She was good at studies and sports, and pretty. Cheerful and bright, she was the center of attention. The typical top of the social hierarchy, her influence at school was huge. You might think I benefited somehow from being her sister, but no, that was far from the case. She despised me for being slow-witted, so I faced losses rather than gains.
Don't you dare speak to me at school. I really hate you, you know?
It was unbearable hearing her say that in front of everyone. Everyone around me saw me as the family-approved punching bag. There was no smile on my face during my school days. That's for sure. Whenever my sister interacted with me, her attitude was always the worst, and her language was incredibly foul. I was the only one who knew her ugly true nature. I don't think even our parents knew the full extent. In middle school, I stood up to my sister just once. I couldn't just take it anymore. I felt I had to retaliate somehow. Stop taking your stress out on me all the time.
What? How dare you, the younger sister, talk back to me?
As a result, I ended up being treated even worse than before. It was then that my things began to be used without permission or even thrown away. Whether it was school-related or not, my sister used and treated my belongings however she wanted. Stop it, please. At least don't mess up my textbooks and stationery.
It's your fault for being so cheeky. You need to reflect and apologize.
I think our parents must have been aware of the nature of our fights. They must have known that my sister was unilaterally exerting her power and tormenting me, the weaker one. But they did nothing about it. As long as it made my sister happy, what happened to me didn't matter to them. Our other relatives were no different. No one would reprimand my sister. No one would help me. I still despise my parents and relatives for that. They are as guilty as my sister. My sister would act sweet in front of the family but show her demonic nature only to me. My parents, who must have had an inkling of her two-faced nature, chose to ignore it. Relatives, too, side as an issue between the parties involved and opted to remain bystanders. In such a toxic environment, it was inevitable that I, a naive child, would develop a distrust of people. I became isolated, withdrawn, and as I grew up, I turned into an increasingly introverted and quiet woman. I wanted to cut ties with my sister, parents, and relatives as soon as possible and start a completely new life. That became a vague dream of mine. Imagining myself living freely, liberated from all ties, helped me preserve my fragile mind. However, an incident that cemented the hostile relationship between my sister and me happened. When she was a freshman in college and I was a sophomore in high school. At that time, I was at the peak of happiness. I had a boyfriend for the first time in my life. I was surprised myself that someone as negative as me could have a boyfriend. His name was Joe. We were in the same grade, both library committee members, and similarly introverted. I think our wavelengths just matched. We got to know each other through a slight connection and quickly became close. Some people teased us, calling us the gloomy couple, but we ignored them. Let them say whatever they want. No one could interfere with us. That's how strongly I felt. I was so intoxicated with the first sense of fulfillment that I seemed to lose sight of everything around me. And then I made a mistake. Carried away, I revealed to my parents about my boyfriend. I've been dating a boy my age. His name is Joe. My parents always compared me to my sister, calling me slow and making fun of me. I wanted to prove to them that I could get a boyfriend too. There's no doubt that my heart was overflowing with such show-off feelings at the time. It might have been wrong of me. A while after summer vacation began, the daily messages from Joe suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Did something happen? I asked in emails, but there was no reply. Normally, you would check with mutual friends in such a situation. But unfortunately, we didn't have any. I didn't have the courage to visit his house either. Exactly 2 weeks after the communication ceased, Joe emailed me saying goodbye. It wasn't a joke. I couldn't just accept being broken up with without knowing why. I called him to find out why he suddenly wanted to break up. Please tell me the reason. I can't accept this without understanding why. Joe just kept repeating, I'm really sorry. In the end, I never got a detailed explanation. All I could do was accept the breakup he announced. From that afternoon until midnight, I cried nonstop without eating anything. A few days later, when I visited a mall for an errand, I encountered a scene that made me doubt my eyes. My sister and Joe were walking arm in arm. What the hell is this? What's going on? I yelled right there, not caring about the eyes of passers-by. I was boiling with anger towards my sister and Joe. My sister pulled Joe closer as if to flaunt him and smirk.
Joe says he prefers me over you.
I can't believe this. Who normally steals their sister's boyfriend?
Say whatever you want. A gloomy loser like you having a boyfriend is a century too early.
Joe just hung his head, looking sorry and not moving. He seemed ashamed of his fickleness, yet also resigned. I later found out that my parents had told my sister about Joe. Upon learning that I had a boyfriend, my sister said it was presumptuous of me. The surprise came next. During her summer break from college, my sister approached Joe multiple times. Joe, tempted by my experienced sister, quickly fell into her hands.
Well, we'll take our leave then. Being alone suits you better.
I was overwhelmed with rage. What made me even angrier was what happened afterward. The day after we met at the mall, my sister dumped Joe. I think she felt satisfied with the harassment she inflicted on me and no longer needed him. Joe called me wanting to meet and apologize in person, saying he wanted to start over. There was no way we could. I rejected him and confirmed our breakup again. I couldn't stop crying. Until my college days and up to my 5th year as a working adult, there wasn't much to write about. I excluded my sister from my life and lived trying not to remember the unpleasant things. Since I still resented my parents and relatives, I didn't go back home, not even for the holidays or Christmas. The only time I willingly returned home was when a gathering for adults was held in my hometown. I had resolved never to set foot there again after that event. At the time, my sister was a senior in college, enjoying her last year to the fullest. She came back at the same time as me and got drunk, rambling on and on.
My current boyfriend is the worst. Can you believe he's cheating on me, even though he has me?
The world is vast, and there are always better people out there. It seemed there were many women at university prettier than my sister. She vented her frustration about not always being the top until she was satisfied. I got my second boyfriend when I became comfortable with my job and had some breathing space in life. We met through a friend's introduction. His name was Tyler, an elite banker.
Both my parents are bankers, so I guess I'm a thoroughbred.
Saying that he liked curious-looking women like me. He always made me feel good. Because of the bitter memories from high school, I told no one about my boyfriend. After a year of dating, Tyler proposed to me, and I was finally able to get engaged. I thought I could finally be happy. I decided not to tell my parents or sister about the engagement. I shared with Tyler and his parents in detail how my family had made me suffer. I thought they would surely sympathize and understand my desire to cut ties with my family. That's what I was thinking, but a few weeks after the engagement, the unbelievable happened again. My sister stole Tyler from me, repeating the nightmare of high school. When I suddenly couldn't contact him, Tyler broke up with me after a while.
Emily, I'm sorry. I've fallen for someone else.
You're kidding, right? Tell me it's not my sister, please.
How did you know?
I was utterly confused. I had kept my relationship with him a secret. I hadn't told anyone in my family, nor had I planned to. Yet somehow, my sister found out. Why though? What caused this? That's when I started to consider revenge and thoroughly investigated my sister, especially how she got my information. Life is strange. In the process of taking action, I also had a special encounter. Time flew by, and 3 years after Tyler broke up with me, I received a call from my sister. She was getting married to Tyler.
We're getting married. I'll be expecting a wedding gift of $10,000.
It was going to be a garden wedding. She was gloating as usual. After all, she was marrying my ex-fiancé. The perfect ingredient to torment me and make me miserable. I could easily imagine her spiteful smile, much to my disgust. What a terrible woman. It's just too painful to know that I'm related to someone like her by blood. But 3 years can change a person and their destiny. To me now, my sister is no longer an enemy. Her gloating is just ridiculous. I won't let her have her way anymore. I responded as brightly as I could. Sure, I'll go with my husband, the CEO whose company makes $300 million a year. I could picture my sister's confused face. Before she could ask any detailed questions, I ended the call. The wedding day would surely be filled with tears. Tears of regret, not joy. On the day of my sister's wedding, I revealed that I was already married. Not just my sister, but also my parents and other relatives were surprised.
Why didn't you tell your family something so important?
I didn't want to. You weren't the kind of family I felt like contacting. That's the only reason. Everyone was stunned by my blunt response. I felt a sense of satisfaction. Then I called my husband, who was waiting at the edge of the garden. Walking towards me was a tall man with a commanding presence, the very image of a businessman. My husband, James, had turned a near-bankrupt local factory into a global enterprise. He had expanded into many areas, and now the group's annual sales were up to $300 million. James, having achieved great business success, exuded the aura of a victor. He overwhelmed my relatives present there.
Nice to meet you all. I am James, Emily's partner. I apologize for the late introduction. Congratulations on your wedding, Lisi.
What do you mean, congratulations? How dare you marry someone's sister behind their back? Isn't it common sense to ask for her hand properly?
Of course, I intended to do so, but Emily stopped me. I understood why after she explained. Lisi, you're truly despicable.
What do you mean despicable? What are you talking about?
From childhood, you tormented Emily. And even as teenagers and adults, you stole her boyfriends and flaunted marrying them. Isn't such behavior despicable?
Lisa, looking up at the towering James, was at a loss for words, as everything he said was true. The wedding guests started murmuring, turning their attention to the bride's dark side being exposed. James didn't stop, encouraged by my gesture to continue.
And it's the same with you. The parents always siding with Lisa and neglecting Emily. And the relatives too. Don't you know the meaning of fairness? Looking back, isn't it natural for Emily to disown you?
No one could respond. My parents hung their heads like scolded children. Despite being much older than James, then Tyler, the man who was my fiancé until 3 years ago, approached. Having been seduced by Lisa to leave me, an elite banker. When he realized James was speaking, Tyler started to grovel.
James, what brings you here? Today is my wedding.
Hey Tyler. I know, congratulations. Your wife told mine to bring a $10,000 wedding gift. I wanted to see what kind of woman would say such a thing.
What, Lisa, you did? And wife, James's wife, could it be?
Tyler looked back and forth between me and James, bewildered. When I nodded in affirmation, Tyler's mouth hung open in shock. So Tyler, James, a top executive of a major corporation, was someone he could not afford to displease. Discovering that the woman he discarded had married such an influential person naturally threw him off balance. James, on my behalf, continued to sternly address Tyler, who was visibly flustered.
We always appreciate the services of your bank, and you've had your share of troubles dealing with us. But Tyler, it's pretty low of you, isn't it?
Low, you say?
You were engaged to Emily, right? Yet you chose her sister over her. Didn't you feel any remorse towards Emily? And to invite her to your wedding, that's in poor taste, to say the least. I never thought you were that kind of person.
No, it's not like that. I was against inviting Emily, but…
Save your excuses. I don't want to entrust our group's finances to a bank that employs such unprincipled people. I'm considering changing our main bank. Tell that to your president from me.
Please, not that. I can't make such a report.
Tyler was prostrating before James, begging for forgiveness. A pitiful sight for one of the day's main characters. Seeing her partner in such a state, my sister trembled. Not enough. This won't settle it. I didn't let up. Wait, James. In a way, Tyler is also a victim. The real culprit is my sister, right, Tyler? You felt sorry for me and suggested not inviting me to the wedding, but she insisted. Isn't that right?
Yes, exactly. Lisa went ahead with her plans, saying she wanted to harass Emily to the end. I tried to stop her. It was terrible.
Tyler, how can you say that? You're making me out to be the villain.
I'm just stating the facts. You had such a malicious look on your face back then.
Just as I intended, the newly vowed couple started to bicker in the chapel. I raised my voice so the surrounding relatives could hear. That's her true nature. Since we were kids, she's been mean to me, spouting abusive words and stealing my boyfriends. Yet, she was adored by everyone around her. I continued exposing the harsh truth about my sister, her two-faced nature. How she commanded me not to speak to her in public, her overt disdain, her theft and misuse of my belongings, and how she even sold some of them. I didn't want to recall it, but I recounted how she stole my first boyfriend in high school. The day after flaunting her relationship with that boyfriend, she dumped him. She was done harassing me, so he was no longer of use to her. Be careful, Tyler, not to meet the same fate.
It's not like that. There was another reason we broke up. I can't remember right now, but it wasn't because the harassment was over.
My sister frantically tried to defend herself, but no one believed her. The atmosphere was telling. I could also tell from everyone's expressions. They were appalled. The garden wedding had turned into an away game for the bride. Right? You can't just dump Tyler. Marrying an elite banker isn't something anyone can easily do. I was devastated 3 years ago. Do you understand how it feels to have your fiancé stolen, sister? Probably not.
It's your fault for being slow-witted.
Really? I don't think so. It's much worse to secretly approach and steal your sister's fiancé. Oh, I get it. You don't realize you're doing something wrong. That's why you can do such things so easily.
Emily, enough already.
Who should be saying enough? Stop messing up people's lives. I've done my research, you know. Sister, you were always chasing after other people's men in college, garnering plenty of resentment, right? My sister stepped back, unnerved. She was scared, not knowing how much I knew. I was aware of almost everything about her college life, which is just as I touched upon a moment ago. how she repeatedly seduced and stole other women's boyfriends, earning nicknames like Crusher or Man-Eater. The dark side of a beautiful, academically successful college student. It reveals her hidden nature. Such a dishonorable reputation. You stole people's boyfriends to affirm your own attractiveness, right? You wanted to bask in a sense of superiority and then discarded them quickly. What you did was despicable, wrong, and shameful. As your sister, I'm embarrassed.
Stop. Don't make things up.
Making things up. You're the one lying. I told you, I've done thorough research. I met with each victim personally and heard their stories. Remember Ashley, Monica, Yolanda, Heather, Rachel, and Rose? They all had their boyfriends stolen by you, and they still resent you to this day. When I named these specific individuals, my sister's complexion changed. She realized her excuses were futile, having been relentlessly counted by the sister she always looked down upon. Now she was utterly deflated. Neither our parents, relatives, nor the wedding staff could stop me. Even if they tried, James intervened. Feeling it was time, I decided to deliver the final blow to my devastated sister. By the way, how did you find out about my engagement with Tyler 3 years ago? I didn't tell anyone. As James mentioned earlier, I despised everyone, so I had no intention of sharing even after getting married. Tyler and his parents understood that.
Well, someone told me.
Who was it? When I was in high school, it was our parents who informed you about my boyfriend, right? You interfered, saying I was too presumptuous. But it's different now. I haven't told anyone in our family. No one I met after starting work had any connection to my sister. Yet, she knew about my engagement with Tyler and meddled. Who told you? Who enabled this? I pressed on.
I don't know. I can remember. Does it matter right now?
It matters a lot. Lisa, lying only makes things worse. Just be honest. No one informed you about me and Tyler, right? So how did you find out?
What? What are you trying to say?
I turned my smartphone screen toward my sister for everyone to see. Displayed was an image of her and a scene of her entering my room without permission. She turned pale and froze in shock. Surprised, I thoroughly investigated how my relationship with Tyler back then came to light. I considered all possibilities and found it. Lisa, you planted a bug in my room. That's why you knew everything.
Bugging? No way. Lisa, did you bug your own sister?
Her breathing became erratic, and she began shaking her head in denial. She seemed to have an expression that didn't want to admit anything. It's no lie. You would do anything to outdo me and make me miserable. You probably took the key to my room without permission when I visited home once for a gathering. That's why you could come and go as you pleased. I suspect she also found my current address from items I had during that visit. She must have acted while I was in the bathroom or away. Using the information and duplicate key, she later installed the bug in my residence. The bug is still there, with your fingerprints, I bet.
That's a lie. All a fabrication.
But how else can you explain having a key to my room? You've been entering my house, right? Were you there to replace the bug? Didn't you notice the camera?
Under current law, bugging itself may not be criminal, but illegal entry is. Are you prepared for the consequences, Lisa?
But I'm the older sister. What's wrong with entering my sister's room?
Who had said she couldn't accept such an imperfect sister? Whether you're siblings or not, entering someone's room with a stolen key is a crime. I'll have James's lawyer friend help, and we'll formally charge you. I will make her admit her guilt through a trial or whatever it takes. Then I will make her apologize until she's thoroughly remorseful. That's the extent of my revenge. For now, it's still ongoing. The venue fell silent. The sky seemed empty. My sister sat down and began to cry. Instead of comforting her, Tyler looked down and said,
Sorry, can we pretend this marriage never happened?
What? What are you talking about? Stop saying weird things.
What's weird about it? It's only natural to want a divorce. I knew you could be scary, but I never imagined you were this despicable. I want a divorce.
No way. I will never agree to a divorce.
James, Emily, I'm truly sorry for all the trouble. I will end my relationship with this woman, so please continue to support our company as before.
No way. Unbelievable. Traitor.
My sister, unable to bear it, began crying and tried to lash out at Tyler, but our parents held her back. There was nothing about my sister to sympathize with. Her faults were clear to anyone listening to our exchange. Her tear-streaked face was grotesquely distorted, almost worth capturing in a photo. Whatever happened to the wedding, I no longer cared. James and I left the scene. Later, James received a call from Tyler, who managed to finalize the divorce for my sister. From Tyler's tone, I could picture my sister's pitiful state.
She begged me not to leave her, saying she'd do anything, crying and pleading. It was quite a scene.
Tyler recounted, trying desperately to regain our favor. He spoke harshly of my sister, forcing her into agreeing to the divorce. She had brought it upon herself. Frankly, afterward, I sued my sister for trespassing and sought damages for emotional distress. She had worked at a trading company, but the bugging and divorce scandal became known at her workplace, making her position untenable. She resigned, citing personal reasons, and returned to live a slovenly life at our parents' home, according to them. Prompted by relatives, my parents apologized for their past behavior, regretting their preferential treatment of my sister and neglect of me. Like Tyler, they mockingly shared details of my sister's current miserable state. She couldn't adjust to a lower standard of living, wasting money despite being jobless, rapidly depleting her savings, and resorting to begging our parents for money. Her appearance also suffered. Stress eating caused her to gain weight rapidly, erasing any traces of her former beauty. Now a neglected woman in her 40s, she does nothing but complain. If she has the energy to complain about others, there's no need to worry about her. I advised my parents over the phone not to pamper her too much. It would be better for her to work and face herself, for her own sake, realizing her foolish actions. My parents suggested I visit with James, but I politely declined. A couple of apologies won't make amends. I won't set foot in my hometown again. Even as my parents age, they will realize the extent of their mistreatment. They can spend their twilight years regretting and reflecting with their unworthy eldest daughter. Then, I ended the call. I now feel content in my life with James, feeling cherished in a happy marriage. 3 years ago, consumed by hatred, I hired a private investigator to monitor my sister's actions. By chance, James, the company's advisor, was there and sympathized greatly with me. As they say, when one god abandons you, another will pick you up. Life is truly unpredictable. Recently, I discovered I'm pregnant with a boy. Much to James's excitement about having an heir. Since standing my ground at the wedding, my life has been on an upswing, with James continually expanding his business. Both of us are on the rise, it seems. After enduring so much unpleasantness, we aim to be happier than anyone else from now on. For that reason, I'm committed to staying as positive as possible.